Joining me now, former Secretary of Homeland Security, Jeh Johnson. Secretary Johnson, thank you for coming back to the Sunday show.
Thanks for having me, Jonathan.
So you were just at the ceremony at Ground Zero. Your thoughts on this day?
I try to go every year. I was there last year. I was there years before that. I've been to Shanksville. I've been to the ceremony at the Pentagon. The thing that occurred to me about this year's celebration is as soon as I got to the World Trade Center and I saw children who were at the observance, and it occurred to me that as of today, no one under the age of 21 was alive on 9/11/2021. Everyone alive now, an adult, was alive then. The observance is always very somber. The families are heartbroken still. In the meantime, the terrorist threat to our homeland has evolved significantly, and it's incumbent upon our government to try to stay one step ahead of current terrorist threats to our homeland.
Well, that's a good segue into what I was going to ask you next, and that is, how has the terrorist threat changed over the 21 years since 9/11?
So in the first 10 years or so after 9/11, our government, multiple administrations, Bush, Obama, were focused on what we referred to as foreign-directed terrorist attacks. In other words, a foreign terrorist organization directs a large-scale attack against the homeland. 9/11, of course, the attempted so-called underwear bomber in Detroit, 2009, the so-called shoe bomber. These are all attacks directed by al-Qaeda. That evolved to, in the period 2014, 2015, when I was secretary, that evolved to what we refer to as foreign-inspired attacks, where a foreign terrorist organization on the internet tries to inspire an attack here in the homeland. And we saw a spate of those small-scale attacks, shootings. Now, the principal terrorist threat to our homeland is domestic-based violent extremism. And Homeland Security, FBI need to be focused on that principally as the terrorist threat to our homeland.
As you were speaking, we showed video live feed coming from Ground Zero. Former New York Governor George Pataki, who was the governor of New York at the time of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Vice President Kamala Harris is on Meet the Press. I want to play what she had to say about what you were just talking about, domestic threats. Let's play that and ask you about it on the other side.
I think it is very dangerous, and I think it is very harmful, and it makes us weaker. Couple that with people who hold some of the highest elected offices in our country who refuse to condemn an insurrection on January 6th. And I think what it sends is a signal that causes people to question, hey, is America still valuing what they talk about?
Secretary Johnson, I would love your reaction to the vice president there.
We are more divided politically today than we were 21 years ago in the aftermath of 9/11. In the aftermath of 9/11, this nation came together in ways that we had not seen for years. I worry that if there were another crisis, another large-scale attack of some sort, we would quickly, politically, fall into various different camps. There may even be an argument about who did it. There might be somebody who says, it was not that group, it was this group, fake news. The proof of that, frankly, we used to say it would take a crisis to bring us together. The proof of that, frankly, is COVID. Look what happened with COVID. 1 million people died in this country. And during that crisis, we did lapse into various political ideological camps about the cause of COVID and the cure for COVID. People, wearing a mask, taking a vaccine became politicized. So we are more divided now, which I regard itself as a homeland security threat. If our government is incapable of marshaling a national response to a crisis because we're divided politically, that in and of itself is a threat in my view.
And in the example you gave, it did not help that a lot of the division was being fed by and led by the then sitting president of the United States. I've got to get you on a report that was released by the Anti-Defamation League this week that shows hundreds of elected officials members of the military and law enforcement have appeared on membership lists of the Oath Keepers. We're going to get into the details and the nuances of that report later on in the show. But how alarmed should we be by this, that law enforcement, military folks, elected officials at some point or another were, found themselves on an Oath Keepers membership?
Well, first, I salute Jonathan Greenblatt and the ADL for tracking domestic-based violent extremism, terrorist threats. The ADL has really been out front on this. We should be very alarmed, frankly, to see radicalized, marginalized groups and points of view being embraced by more mainstream politicians. It makes unacceptable behavior become more acceptable. And in my judgment, and I've been saying this for a long time, the rhetoric coming from violent extremist groups, which more and more is being embraced by politicians, makes among the deranged few among us violence inevitable. We have to be responsible in our leadership, the ability of our leaders to command a microphone, who have a public voice. There needs to be more responsible rhetoric. And if we go down this road, more and more people embracing groups like the Oath Keepers, we're putting this nation in a very bad place.
To support my work, please click the subscribe, the like button, and the notification bell so you wouldn't miss any of my new videos.